Thank you. I am 49 years old. I think about my mother when she was 49. When my mother was 49, I had a psychotic break. I was delusional and I was hallucinating. When my mother was 49, my brother made his first suicide attempt. Ultimately, he was successful. When my mother was 49, my father died in an avalanche in the Andes. So where does hope lie? 30 years ago, in my first year of university, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. It was then called manic depression. So it's a disorder where you can swing from lows, which become depression, to highs, which are kind of elevated, agitated states. And in my case, I had a total break with reality. At the time, I was like most people going to university. I was very excited. I was going to university away from home. I was really excited about learning. I had a large group of friends. I had a lot of interests. After I was diagnosed, I thought I didn't have a future. I believed that people could look at me and tell that I was mentally ill. I was very fearful and I felt an enormous amount of shame. So while people withdrew from me, for the most part, and I know you've heard this, I isolated myself. I attended a second university. I spoke to one other student while I was there. I completed my degree at a third university, and then I struggled through a master's degree. I attended another university to do my doctorate, and I saw in the school newspaper an ad, and the ad says, "Have you been hospitalized? Do you have a mental illness? If so, the person to call created the first mental health disability service in Canada 25 years ago." And I looked at that ad and I thought, I don't want to be that person. Who wants to, as a young person, know that they may never be able to drink alcohol? Know that they have to manage their sleep cycle? Know that they're going to have to pay attention to their moods? And I looked at that ad and I thought, I'm afraid. I'm developing in the profession of academia. What will my faculty think? Will they think I'm competent enough to be a professor? And I looked at the ad and I called. And when I met my advisor, what we talked about was stigma and disclosure. I was at a point in the doctoral program where I was working with a committee of 3 people, so very intimate. So how could I ask for what I needed, which was extra time to complete my degree and take care of my mental health at the same time. And so gradually I began to make the request for accommodation. And what I learned, which is extremely important, is that you can request accommodation without disclosing the nature of your disability nor of your diagnosis. And as I became more comfortable with my committee, I said to one of my advisors, I have bipolar disorder. And she said to me, I have a sibling who has schizophrenia. I have a parent who has bipolar disorder. And I was absolutely floored. Here I had spent all my time in university hiding, petrified that somebody would find out. And in the very institution that just the rational mind is just the pinnacle, here was someone who understood what it was to have a disordered mind. I had an excellent experience completing my dissertation, a very good defense. But throughout my degree, I had many faculty members discourage me from pursuing the profession. And their argument was that it was going to be too stressful. So there was never any attention paid to barriers to access to the profession, that there could be accommodation for me to become a faculty member. Instead, the problem lay with me. When I had my psychotic break, were I to tell someone that I would later go to university, complete a PhD, win a prestigious teaching award, and earn a Governor General's medal, that person would probably say to me, in the words of Mark Vonnegut, we're going to up your medication and take away your day pass privileges. So what do we know about providing accommodation for people with mental health disabilities? I've worked in this field now for 15 years, and we've made some really impressive progress. Much as I said, what we know most importantly is that people need to go at their own pace, which often means a reduced course load. There's never going to be a time again in your life where you're going to be in this compressed 12-week period where you're going to have multiple assignments due at the same time, multiple tests at the same time. So to have the option to stagger these deadlines will make you able to succeed without putting your mental health at risk. Another thing that's very important is accommodation for attendance, if that's being graded, so that you can see your specialist, so that if you're having a flare-up of symptoms, if you're having side effects of medication, if you're just, as a young person, coming to understand the nature of your disability, that you can have some accommodation and support. And very importantly, too, in this heightened atmosphere of testing that you can write in our Center for Academic Testing at Trent in a distraction-reduced, quiet environment. So where have we progressed to? I would say the most significant, or one of the most significant things that I've experienced in 15 years in the job and 30 years of my own experience is that when I ask a student at this time in the year, how's your accommodation plan working for you? The people are no longer just saying to me, the accommodation plan is meeting my need, but rather they're saying, my parent is so glad that I have this plan. My parent sees what a difference this is making for me. And this is exceptional. I have worked consistently with people who have hid their symptoms from their parents, who if they've told their parents, they've told them not to tell anyone, or their parents have rejected them. So that when we have orientations and open houses for students with disabilities, and I know this is a generalization, but we see parents from many other forms of disability. They've supported their student throughout their educational experience, and we would see no parents or a couple of parents. And now parents are coming to these events. This is profound. The other big change that I see is that people are coming to university who are well versed in the mental health system. They have been in hospital, or they're working with social workers, naturopaths, psychiatrists, counselors, and when they come to accessibility services at Trent, I become part of that support team so that their ability to access their education is enhanced by not only the supports and the service in the community, but also within the university. Another really significant change, and this is something Trent does really well, if a student presents an emotional distress to one of our doctors or counselors, they can be registered with our program quickly and get immediate academic support. And the reason this is so valuable is that it is that much more likely that those symptoms won't develop into a disorder, or it will help to minimize the impact so that that course of somebody's health will be greatly enhanced. And again, we know so much that early intervention makes a significant difference for people with mental health disabilities. But the thing that I am most cognizant of in 30 years and 15 years in the field is that the students I see day in, day out who register with the program are just like me, staring at that ad. They're in their second, their third, their fourth, their fifth year, and they have dropped courses, they have failed courses, they have transferred universities. And when they come to the office, I hear the refrain, I wish I had come here earlier. So where does hope lie? We have to move beyond accommodation, not just to acceptance, but to embracing us. We have to move beyond narratives that it's acceptable for us to be mad if we are geniuses, like John Nash, who's portrayed in the film A Beautiful Mind. It's acceptable for us if our madness is associated with creativity. So we valorize writers like Virginia Woolf, one of the great authors of the 20th century. But what if we were not to look at these heroic endeavors, but what if we were to look at the small successes the changes of what the Academy may or might become. We are not broken. We are not to be pitied, but rather we have knowledge, we have experience, we have insight that enriches everyone in the university. Thank you.